Welcome back to Man the Helm podcast. Today I am joined by Steve Rowe from 60 Cycle Hum. How's it going, sir?
Hey, it's good. It's good. And just so you know, and I tell you this, I tell people I only say this if I care, if I think that we're going to have another conversation later. My last name's actually pronounced Rowe.
Oh, Rowe. Man,
Yeah.
my bad, dude.
But
That
no,
was
I
just...
get that all the time. And then when it's people are where I'm like, I don't care about this person, whatever, like I just let it go. But I'm letting
Well,
you know because
I,
I like your stuff and I'm happy to be here.
yeah, dude. Well, and I don't shy away from this, and we'll get into this. I'm not a super huge gear guy. I'm more of a player. I enjoy playing the instrument. I'm one of those guys that lives by the adage if it inspires me to play, or what's the if it sounds good, it is good sort of thing. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure, yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, you have a pedal shelf behind you, so that I feel like that's only half true, but
well. That is well. So let me clarify that just a little bit. I don't get into, I guess, the nitty gritty detail of everything.
oh, for sure.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not that there's anything wrong with that, listeners, viewers. It's all good if that's what you're into. That's awesome. But for me as a player, that's really what I focus on. Is more of the playing side of things. And whenever I have guests on, if they make stuff or they have channels or they have podcasts, I'm more interested in the story than I
Oh,
am about
cool.
the
Yeah.
actual thing they're making, because the story
Sure.
is what makes it interesting, you
Yeah.
know. But I'll be real honest. We started up with the missing last name or mispronunciation of a last name. I'm going to be brutally honest again. I've not really dived a whole lot into 60 Cycle Hum. I've listened to a handful of episodes here and there. But for my own ignorance, maybe we can start at the beginning. How did you and Ryan kind of get this thing going?
Sure. So Ryan and I go pretty far back. We met when I was barely in college. I
Okay.
think I was like 18. He's a couple years older than I am. Actually, the very first time we met, which this is kind of a goofy story, but I've known his sister. I knew his sister in high school
Oh, cool.
from when I was like probably 15, 16 years old. She's a year younger than me. And then when I was in college, she was like, "Oh, you got to meet my brother," to me and my friend. And so she introduced us. And at the time, me and my friend, we were just like, I don't know like what this guy's deal is. Like, he just seems like a weirdo.
Right.
Like, 20-year-old hanging out with his kid's sister. Like, I don't understand what's going on here. And then I don't think anything came of it for like a year or two. And then, or maybe like a year. And then later on, my buddy who was there with me, and he was a drummer, he ended up connecting with Ryan. They started doing like a drum and guitar thing. I showed up with the guitar, so we had a two guitar and a drummer band for like one session. And
Nice.
at the end of it, they're like, "This two guitar thing doesn't work," because I'm just all rhythm, and at the time Ryan's just like, "How fast can you play a pentatonic scale?"
Sure.
And so I was like, "Well, that was a lot of fun. Like, so what do I need to do? Like, obviously, like I can't hang on guitar." They're like, "Well, like rhythm guitar and bass are almost the same thing. You just move the beat around a little." I was like, "Okay, cool, let's do that." So that band lasted like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years
Oh,
probably. And
wow.
then we broke up and Ryan and I started another band. Um, and actually it's probably more than, yeah, 4 or 5 years. Ryan and I started another band. So we've been friends for a really long time. Probably around 2012, 2013, he was like, "Dude, you ever listen to podcasts?" So I started listening to podcasts, and I would be at work, he would be at work, and we would just be like cruising Craigslist all the time looking for deals on gear. And back then, before Reverb, before eBay really blew up, you could still go to pawn shops and get killer deals where, like, if you wanted to do the legwork, you could go to a pawn shop, get like a Mexican. I've done this a handful of times. You can get a Mexican Strat from a pawn shop in 2007 for $200.
Yeah.
Take it home, throw a fresh set of strings on, get some hot water, elbow grease the thing, scrape off stickers, put a fresh set of strings on it, put it back on Craigslist for $300, and you're making 50, $60 plus your own labor, right?
For sure.
So I did that a few times. Those were the kinds of deals we were always looking for. Or, somebody selling a pedal board with $500 worth of pedals for $250. So you
Right.
buy it, you sell each pedal individually on eBay or those back on Craigslist, whatever. Um, but we would just send these deals to each other all the time. And sometimes it would just be like, look how dumb this is, or look how killer this is. And at some point he said, like, I think there's a podcast idea here. So he's like, instead of sending me ads this week, just save them all. Like email them to yourself, or take screenshots, send them to yourself, whatever. And then let's sit down with a couple of microphones and record it.
Yeah.
And that was in 2014. So we've been doing the podcast portion for like a little over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's actually the funny thing too, because we've been doing that so long. The channel, like the demo channel, spun up in earnest probably in like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
There were a couple videos in between there, but like I said, in earnest, where Ryan's uploading like at least once a week, probably 2017. So a lot of people, they jump in and they'll watch the video podcast and they'll be like, what the hell is this? Where did this guy come from? He doesn't know anything. He's bad at guitar. Why is he even here? And because a lot of people just show up to watch the demos, and then they get suggested this hour-long ramble, and they click on that and they start watching it, and they don't get it, and then they're like, what is this? And they don't know that it's actually predates the YouTube channel.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of like how that all got started.
Very cool.
In a nutshell. And like I said, Ryan and I had already been friends for probably 10 years when we started the podcast.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's usually like the best case scenario if you're going to have, somebody that you were already essentially making a podcast with, just not recording it. You know what I mean? So
we got really, in some ways I feel like we got really lucky, but it is to what you're saying. Like, when we started, I was not listening. I wasn't listening to gear podcasts because I didn't know they existed.
Well, they really didn't.
There was only, of the shows that exist now, I think the only one that existed then, and it was in a different format, was Guitar Nerds.
Okay, yeah.
But at that time, they were the GAK podcast, because all of those guys were working for GAK.
Yeah.
Or GAK, whatever. It's okay. They say Meza, so I can call it GAK.
Right.
So they existed. And I don't think anyone else existed. Tone Mob started up around the same time we did. And Brian Wampler's Chasing Tone started up. I think we started in like January 2014. I think they started like July 2014, something like that.
Yeah.
So all in that same year. So I do think in some ways, like, we got really lucky to be kind of like at the front of a wave that was starting.
Sure. Yeah.
But also, again, Ryan and I have talked about this, doing the video and all of the extra editing and stuff, getting the channel as big as it has, allowed that to maintain being like worth the effort.
Sure.
But it was something we were already doing.
Right.
Like you said, like, we were having these sorts of conversations in text messages.
Yeah.
And it just was like, well, let's just do it with a microphone.
For sure. Well, and there's something to be said. I mean, you guys obviously had a good chemistry beforehand. You guys were friends, and, it was probably a very easy transition to sit in front of microphones and talk about the same stuff you were already doing. But something to be said about the longevity of a podcast like 60 Cycle is the consistency that you guys are putting stuff out at. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the thing that I've fallen into this trap too, man, where, life happens and then I don't, maybe I don't publish a video or I don't get an episode out weekly, or I miss, I think I've missed upwards of a month at some point in time. You know what I mean? But that's what tends to happen, is what I see, especially with a lot of my friends that are kind of in the starting process right now. They have two kind of weird mindsets. Either they're not consistent enough, or they feel like they're late, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I don't always agree with that, because I there's somebody that's going to watch you. You
Yeah.
might not you might not get the droves of people of the podcast or the YouTube channels or whatever social media you're consuming that come to you, but there will
Hmm.
be somebody to watch you.
Absolutely. I know channels that are still making their show. They've been making it for 6, 7, 8 years. They've never had more than 300 downloads on an episode.
Yeah.
It's just consistency. It's a thing that they do because they enjoy it.
Hmm.
And I know Philip.
Yeah.
He was one of these guys that was just grinding, right?
Hmm.
Trying to find ways to make the grind make sense. And just in the last 6 months, it's starting to pay like the big dividends.
Yeah. Yeah.
With he's hosting. Is it this weekend?
I think
I
so.
think he
Yeah.
just got to Fretboard Summit, right? And
Hmm.
he's gonna host a panel with some big boys on it, right?
Yeah.
Some folks I don't think he's had on his show yet. So those are some really cool big opportunities. But these interview shows, like you doing, like Philip does, like they're also tough because you have to line up the guests and you have to do all of that extra work. Whereas like my show, two people, and we just look at used gear.
Yeah.
It's the used gear part is a very nice perpetual gold mine.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Well, but the thing is with it though, I mean, that's what got you guys interested or got the ball rolling with the podcast. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it totally makes sense. It's what you two were both interested in, even before you were doing this. And that's the point that I like to drive home with a lot of people that might listen to this show or do whatever. I always talk about manning your helm and driving your life in the
Hmm.
direction you want it to go. But I think I need to add a caveat to that is don't do it for the wrong reasons. Like you guys were just doing it because it was something you enjoyed. Like if you
Yeah.
don't enjoy
Yeah.
it, and that old adage of you're getting in the music industry to make money, regardless of what capacity that is, you're probably going to be disappointed.
100%.
Like,
And that's the other thing you're saying is like, if you feel like you're getting into the podcast game late, it's exactly what you're saying. Like there's no late. It is heavily saturated. COVID, COVID from like already being in the podcast business, if you want to call it, I
sure,
guess it's
I
a
get what you're saying.
business,
Yeah.
right? Uh, COVID was really annoying because all of a sudden all these celebrities who weren't allowed to be actors anymore decided to
Right.
become podcasters, and
Hmm.
I'm like, do we really need to know what, do we need to have Paris Hilton interviewing Nicole Richie for a podcast? Like what? I've heard that. For what it's worth, I've heard that podcast is good. I've never listened to it,
Well,
but
I'm sure.
but just like, do we need it? And the flip side of it is, do we need any podcast? And we don't. So if you want to make a podcast, there's no better time than today or tomorrow. Well, today really, to turn on a microphone and record yourself or record you and another person having a conversation for 20, 30, 40 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour long. It can be
No.
any length. You can release it as often as you want or as little as you want, but like consistency, like you said too, is also huge. I think there's a lot of momentum uh, that just feels right in having a consistent schedule.
Yeah. Well, I think once you start to get a fan base, regardless of what capacity, I don't want to say, what's a good way to put this? You don't owe it to them, but I think you've created something that you need to, at least for me as an individual, I
Hmm.
feel like I need to continuously feed that content, not only because I get to meet interesting people, but I also get to provide these introspective conversations from people that are actually doing said thing, whatever that said thing is, to an
Right.
audience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because the old, I thought the same thing. I think everybody pretty much does. When you look at, especially as a musician, if you look at the whatever the music industry means, it looks massive. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
looks like something that you could never even dip your toe into. But there's really not that many people, especially when you start getting to the niche side of things, like the
Hmm.
podcasters, the YouTubers, the people that create content, not just the artists. You know what I mean? But
For sure.
it's not a huge group of people.
No, it's not. And even on like on the the business side, the pedal builders, the guitar builders. Um, when I first met Doug Cower, I want to say 2016, maybe it was 2015, 2015, 2016, somewhere back there. He already had his shop. He's been in the same shop because, it's a family shop.
Hmm.
So he's just been there forever. But, at the time he was probably making, I want to say like 20 or 30 guitars a year, something
Sure.
like
Yeah.
that. And now he's in Guitar Center,
Yeah.
so everybody starts somewhere. Um, and some brands just blow up faster than others, but I think if you are consistent and you put in the grind, like eventually there is a lot of room.
Yeah. I think it was Josh Scott that said something as the effect of, if you want to be successful, just stick around, or something as to that effect.
There's a 100% on a bit of, yeah, you stick around and you answer your email.
Yeah. Right.
uh, the number of companies that I've just kind of seen like fall off the map and went from being at the one of the most respected brands to being non-existent in 6 months, and how that 6 months could have been mitigated by answering 30 or 40 emails.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, communication is key regardless of what
Yeah.
industry you're in, man. Like, you can't, like, that's one of the things I'm struggling with my day job right now, dude. I got a work trip that supposedly is on one day, but I'm getting told by three different people it's on another day. I don't know how this is working out, man, but too many chefs in the kitchen, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've never understood that. You know what I mean? I get it with, you know, huge companies, but there's no like massively huge company in the music space. Like, there's always
No.
someone that can answer an email. You know what I mean? There's no reason why myself as a customer should ever reach out and not hear anything for months. You know what
No.
I mean?
Absolutely. I agree.
So, but the flip side of that, I don't think I've ever experienced that. Maybe from like a handful. I'm talking like one or two,
Yeah.
maybe.
No, it's funny is, so I've only ever even bought like one bum pedal, I
Hmm.
think. Um, and I don't think I've told this story to people individually, but I don't think I've ever put it on a show. But I think it's fine now. It's pretty
Exclusive.
far off. This might be, yeah, this might be exclusive. I bought the 1981 LVL on launch,
Okay.
and I got a dud. Like, it was DOA, and not don't know what was wrong with it. And the thing is so I knew Matt Hoops
Hmm.
because I had couch surfed with him for like back to back NAMs.
Right.
We just we had mutuals and stayed in the same place. So I reached out to him and was like, "Hey man, this pedal's dead." And he got back to me like, I mean, literally it launched a week or two later. I got it in the mail. The day after I received it, I was like, "This thing's doesn't the light comes on and it just kills the circuit." Like that. Probably the switch was, it's the three PDTs. They're a little problematic.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm not. That one might be a relay, but whatever's going on, like it just wasn't switching. It bypassed fine, but it wouldn't run the circuit. So he was super bummed. But because I had already like built a relationship with them, and generally like I've been around enough people to know like these things happen,
Yeah.
and he was really prompt to be like, "Hey, send it back. We'll get you a new one, no problem." That was just resolved.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, it drives me nuts to see people who go on a forum on a new launch and they get the pedal and something's wrong with it. And the first thing they do, they don't reach out to the business. They got to go on Reddit or they got to go on the gear page and bitch and moan about it. And it's like, there's circuits, man. Like things happen in the mail.
Yeah. I have never understood that attitude either, man, because like 99% of the people I've seen bitch and complain online about, oh, I got this and it's broke, oh, I got this and switches are all messed up. And the first thing I see in the comments is like, well, who'd you reach out to?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just crickets. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, if you're buying it, like, there's no pedal company that's like this huge conglomerate of like corporate greed. Like, everyone
Hmm.
is going to reach back out to you if you just send an email.
Oh,
Hell,
Behringer maybe.
well, sure, but you know, When I'm thinking of, I guess I'm thinking of my own bias. You know what I mean? I'm a huge Wampler fan, and like
Yeah, yeah,
Brian will email you specifically. Like he will, if he gets it in his inbox, you're gonna get one back from Brian Wampler.
for sure.
So, and it's the same thing with other companies that I've bought things from, and I've never had any issues. But the simple email of like, man, this thing is awesome. I'm not trying
Yeah,
to fanboy too much, but thanks for an awesome product. I always get an email back. You know what I mean?
that's
Something that
cool.
shouldn't
Yeah,
even be a really a priority on their list. You know what I mean? I'm sure they have way more important things to do.
yeah.
But
The pedal business, I don't know as many guitar builders. The ones I've met have all been great,
hmm
but the pedal side of the industry is definitely like one of the most collaborative
oh yeah,
industries I've seen. A bunch of super nice guys. Can everybody knows that like you're going to end up paying it around in one way or another. You might be the DSP guy who runs in, yeah, and so you're helping everybody else with their DSP, but eventually you're going to have an analog problem where you need to reach back out to one of those guys and they're going to pay it back. Like,
yeah,
and that's just how everything kind of operates. It's super cool.
yeah. Well, and I think that's musicians in general. We have this shared love of music or a specific instrument
Hmm.
or whatever that is in general. And most of the time, we're just dudes that like to play music.
Yeah.
We like gear and we like to make weird sounds and we've spent countless hours by ourselves. So when we get to nerd out with another, like-minded individual, we don't even have to know each other's names and we'd be like, hey, dude, I'm seeing whatever you got on that board there, dude. What does that thing do? And then
Yeah.
you just go into this deep dive, you know? So, sorry. I think I got somebody coming in to see me. Nope, never mind. We're good. But no, man, I love, and I've talked to my friends about the kind of backtracking to the kind of coming in late thing. It's like, dude, you can DM everybody on
Hmm.
Instagram or send them any whatever social media you're utilizing. You can interact with most of the time the actual people running said business.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you run a podcast or if you run a YouTube channel, it's too easy for you to reach out to these individuals.
Hmm.
And you might get, a few bit of delay between. I've definitely had some of those where I don't get a response back for a few days, but I mean, these people are busy,
Yeah.
you know?
Instagram's also tough too because like if you're not following back, then it's going to go
Yeah.
in the request folder.
Yep.
So sometimes they might not even see it or
Yeah.
right away, or you got to like drop in the comment, "Hey, I sent you a message. Can you check your requests?"
Yeah. You run into that weird thing where you don't want to become spammy though. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
You
Yeah.
don't want to just like, oh, I posted a story. I'm gonna add it to my story and say, hey, by the way, I sent you a message. You need to look at your request blocks, please. And you know what I mean? Like, I've never really had that issue though. I kind of treat it as most of the people I reach out to are doing this in some capacity. Maybe not completely for their living, but
Hmm.
a good portion of it, or they're doing it full time.
Yeah.
Well, their time's extremely valuable. So the fact that people allow me to take an hour, 2 hours of their time to just sit and talk, it's unbelievable. And that's why I love the time we live in right now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's too easy to send a message, set up a Zoom call, set up, whatever Riverside meeting and call it good.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but one of the things that I will say, anytime I have any like questions about any sort of gear, you guys are usually the first ones to go to because I don't really dive too deep into it, right? And I
Yeah.
know you guys do the deep dive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Ryan likes the extremes of the pedal for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Um, I need to find a way to just like I kind of want to make um someday I'll make it the worst germanium tumnus deluxe video because the first thing I did with it was I just turned everything up all the way except
Oh
the
yeah,
volume because I didn't want to deafen myself.
sure.
Um, which is where I found like at least mine has a bit of like a nasal like it's like it's almost like a I posted about it on threads like it's like it has like a cocked wah
Yeah,
sound going on and a lot of people were like why like it's a clon why are you running like yeah clons do that but why are you doing that and I was like because I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it sounded cool. I just
Yeah.
didn't know if it was supposed to do that.
Well, so I was fortunate enough to get both the deluxe and the mini. Um, I am a huge Wampler fanboy. I will not deny that in the slightest. But I didn't think I was going to get both for sure. But I will say that is the most boring way to run that pedal is just in the traditional like Klon style clipping. You know that like
The like low gain. And,
yeah,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, it's cool, but there's plenty of other things that do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What I found, and I was telling Philip about this when we did our last live stream. So for folks who are just hearing this, I do a live stream about once every 3-4 weeks on 60 Cycle Hum with Philip Carter from 40 Watt, and it's just a Sunday morning, like kind of a brunch show, kind of an idea. But I was telling them, I actually don't think I can, with the way my amp is set up and with my Les Paul, I can't do the traditional Klon thing with the germanium tumnus because it's already, I can kind of get it out of the neck, but the bridge pickup is already running too hot to the amp. The amp's already kind of on edge of breakup.
Right.
That the tumnus is just a little redundant. It gives you some EQ, but I need to run my Strat through it. I think the Strat will do it really well. But with the Les Paul, which is what I kind of default to
Sure.
a lot of the time, which is, I don't know when I started that because I bought that guitar because it was cheap. But yeah, that's kind of been my go-to off the wall, and it doesn't necessarily give like the most dynamic range to drive pedals.
For sure. No, I 100% agree. My go-to for the longest time, I have a 17 Les Paul Traditional. That was the one I gigged with all the time. I still gig with it from time to time. But here recently, I have, what is it? One of those Player Plus delis.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
dude, that's been my go-to for pretty much everything here lately, just because, the volume and tone are so versatile with whatever setup that I'm running. I can, kind of get just about anything out of that guitar in certain combinations. You know what I mean? I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but they did it right the first time around with Telecaster. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion. But also, currently living, just north of Nashville, I think I'm kind of obligated to, like Telecasters. But I love Telecasters when I was living in Indiana too. So that has nothing to do with Nashville. So, but
what part of Indiana were you in?
Central Indianapolis on the east side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I had a family up in, I forgot what the neighborhood was, but my cousins and my aunt lived in Indianapolis. My dad's family's from just south of Terre Haute.
Oh, nice. So, yeah. Yeah, my sister actually went to college down there.
Okay. So yeah, whenever people are like, "Oh yeah, I've lived in Indiana or whatever," I'm like, "Gotta find out where." It's just in my it's just what I do.
Yeah, oh no, I get it, man. I when I found out, I didn't know for the longest time that Brian lived in Martinsville.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just like, dude, I love your stuff, and you've lived like 60 miles away from me my entire life. That's insane. But anyway, I do the same thing with Scott Marcourt from Stringjoy. Him and I, at some point in time, had to have crossed paths because he was living in the same area that I was.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was from Indiana also.
So, like, we were, and one of the easiest ways to get a gig was to do the church thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and see, this is the other thing, man. I love musicians because, once again, such a small group of people. You intermingle and cross paths all the time. You know what I mean? So, but one thing I did love about living in Indiana, I worked at Sam Ash for the longest time. That's kind of what invigorated me to, when I first started playing. I went there. That was the place I bought my first guitar, one of those awful blue whatever color Bullet Strats.
Oh, God.
Back in the day. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm not ashamed to say I do not have that guitar anymore. So
those were the ones that, Fender can't make anything in that color anymore because it's the association is too strong.
For sure.
You know, if they
For
came
sure.
out, if they could come out with like a $4,000 custom shop, and if it's in that, what was it, like cobalt blue or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
you'd just be like, no, it's shit.
Yeah.
There's no way it's
100%.
there's no way it's good. It's the wrong color.
Well, and I teach guitar at a local mom and pop shop here, and one of the things that I always love about my students is the stigma from younger players with like Squire is still there.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't quite understand that. I think it's probably from their parents that are about, in that, mid 30 to 40 range that kind of maybe grew up in that early 2000s era, maybe
Right.
late 90s. But that's the thing I just don't understand because I would kill to have some of these, especially like the classic vibe stuff that they've been putting out here.
Oh,
Yeah. Dude, take that off the wall, set it up to my liking, and I could go play a gig anywhere with it. You know what
The
I mean?
last 10-ish, 10, 15 years, 10, 15 years of Squire have been phenomenal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a whole other level. I know, like I've heard people say, recently, like I hear it both ways. So it's like I don't even really know what to think because I've heard some people say like Squire's kind of starting to get bad again, but then I also hear people say like it's the best it's ever been. So who knows? Everyone has opinions on that, but overall, I mean, it's such a good deal, and yeah, I've told this story on my show. It's probably been 8 years since the last time I did this, but I went into a Guitar Center and just played like 4 or 5 Telecasters up and down the range. This is before the Player Series, so this would have just been the standard. So I played like
Okay.
a standard, I think an American standard, classic vibe, and I think like some reissue.
Okay.
And so we're talking about at the time a range from about $350 up to like $1,500.
hmm
I would have, if just blind, you can't see anything. The Squire was the best one. It
Yeah.
sounded the best. It felt the best. It had this, and the CV Squires at that time. I don't know if they still use them, but this was when the not the American series, but the Made in Mexico standards for Strats and Telecasters were all using ceramic pickups.
Oh, I
It was
didn't know
kind of
that.
like that. It's kind of like that hotter is better mentality.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
they just put in these hot, bright pickups that I always thought just sounded kind of off.
hmm
But the CVs all had Alnico 5s in them that were just like
I
that
see.
nice, warm bell tones.
hmm
And it's like, yeah, this thing's killer. Like it plays great. Maple neck, lacquered maple neck, the whole thing, and it was this one was a white. They did like that white translucent finish. It was killer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and something's to be said about that too, about, going down the line when are looking for those guitars,
Yeah.
right? So, I'm not familiar with this. So what was the era in the like 2010s that Gibson was just sucking?
All of it. No.
Okay. Well,
No, but so I know it was like 2014 or so. They I forget what year the 120th anniversary was, but whenever they hit that 120th anniversary and like the 100th anniversary, they did the anniversary year Les Paul where they swapped out all the parts and stuff and got people really worked up because they put like a brass nut on them. They put
yeah.
the Robo tuners on everything and all that stuff. It just kind of seemed like they were trying to throw everything at the wall. But there were moments in like the thing is I think Gibson was really good through like 2006.
Okay.
I don't know why they started getting bad around there, or like maybe not bad, but like not as good.
Sure.
Where I played, do you remember the Gibson Faded series
Yeah. Yeah.
around 2000? They came out, I think 2006, 2007.
hmm
So I played a Les Paul from those Les Paul fadeds were killer. They had burst buckers in them, all mahogany body, mahogany carved top with burst buckers for like I think 700, $800.
Yeah.
Absolutely killer. So I played one that was fantastic, and then I grabbed the SG, and the SG, the fret sprout on it was horrific. I mean, I was like, how is this, a $600, $700 guitar? It plays like a $200 guitar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was the kind of thing. It's like you could still get good ones, but there definitely was like a decline in QC
Sure. Absolutely.
around there. They started doing weird stuff that some people really love, like the BFG Les
Yeah.
Pauls, and
Hmm.
they did the Zoot Suit, which is that plywood sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Yeah.
ones, and just they were trying all these different things, and around the same time too was when they started branching out. I forget what show I was listening to. I think it was actually I was listening to the Tone Mob yesterday, and they were talking about how at one point Gibson was basically trying to become an electronics company. And
Mm.
so they had purchased like Philips, and they owned Tascam, I think, and all these different parts of the music industry, and even television, and Philips, Norelco, and all that stuff with television, and so they just kind of got weird, and it seemed like their focus on guitars, which was how they made all the money to buy all those other companies in the first place.
Right.
They kind of lost focus on that.
Hmm.
And it's just kind of like you could see it where things just started getting a little odd. They would do like guitar of the month, and you're like, or guitar of the week, guitar of the month. So you end up with reverse flying V, and you just had this feeling like, did you do this on purpose, or did you make 100 of these, and then somebody on the line played one and was like, we have to stop. This is the stupidest thing ever. But we already have 100 of them, so we need to find a way to sell them. Oh, let's call it limited edition.
Right. Right. Right.
So there's and I think I haven't played I haven't really sat down with a newer Gibson too much, like too many of them.
Hmm.
I have heard a lot of reports that like the last 3 or 4 years have been a lot better.
Okay. Yeah. I,
But
I don't know. I've had people, and this is the funny thing, and I'm gonna kind of harp back to this a little later, but people at gigs, musicians or guitar players, if they, come up during a break or whatever, I've had people
mhm.
ask me about the Les Paul that I have, and I say it's 2017, and they always get this like scrunched up look on their face. You know what I mean? And the thing was about that guitar, it's like I think I pulled down like everything off the high end wall that day.
Mm,
I just like looked at the salesman. I was like, dude, I'm not wasting your time. I promise. I'm
yeah,
gonna I'm
yeah,
gonna buy something, but I want to make sure it's the best guitar out here. And
yeah.
for me, that day, that was the best guitar on the wall. Played all the you know American Fenders, a few Gretches, some PRSs. What else was up there? Some really high end Charvels. I think I played too, but that one was just the one that really spoke to me. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but the reason why I bring up those people that kind of scrunch up their faces, those are usually the people, and if you get offended by this, you're probably one of them, that aren't doing anything besides going online and complaining about stuff.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's like the people that are making these things, the people that are playing these things, and like when I say playing them, I'm not saying that like you're playing them in a capacity where you're like gigging all the time, like, but you're playing because you enjoy the instrument,
sure.
or maybe you're on the other side of the social media with YouTube. The people that complain the most are usually the people that aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
get less so lately. Again, COVID was a lot of bored people sitting at home,
sure, absolutely,
and we would get a lot of comments because uh, Ryan is a much better guitarist now than he was 10 years ago.
okay, yeah,
Because when you film yourself record, every day you have to get better.
for sure.
Um,
I think it's just a byproduct.
yeah, yeah, and but people complain all the time, like, oh, why does this guy have a YouTube channel? Well, he has a YouTube channel because he owned a camera and he turned it on, and he put a microphone in front of an amp and hit record on a recording device or on a computer, and then he sat down at a video console. What the hell? These aren't even words. What am I? He sat down in video editing software.
There you go.
And he dragged one file from here and one file from here, and then he rendered that file, and then he put it on YouTube. That's why he has a YouTube channel. You can have a YouTube channel too. It's camera. It's not even. You don't even need all this stuff. You just need an iPhone.
Fact.
Or whatever phone is your preference, and like maybe if you want to like make it better, like get an external microphone, but you don't really need that. I mean, if you go back to the old school Gearman dude videos, like that was just a camera, built-in internal microphone that was pointed at some guy's feet. Yeah. If Gearman dude tried to boot up today, everyone would think he was trying to like do an OnlyFans for his feet.
For sure, absolutely. Well, and I think what it is people equate technical prowess to success.
Yeah.
Which that's not the case at all. There are plenty of people that I have met that could absolutely shred your face off, but they don't do anything with it. You know what I mean?
There's and that's the biggest thing. And it goes back, you want to start a podcast, you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start anything. Yeah, just start it.
Yeah.
I say that as like I have a camera that we're doing this on, and I have recording equipment, and I never record anything. But
well, but the thing is, though, that's what I've tried to explain to people. This stuff is incremental. You're not just gonna.
Yeah.
And even if you had everything you could possibly need, you don't have the experience of using said equipment, so it's still gonna, not come out as good as it could.
Yeah.
It takes those reps of, constantly recording, even just sitting in front of a camera. The first few times, people are awkward. It's just not natural,
It hasn't gotten brought up in a while. Ryan used to do this intro on every pedal demo, every gear demo. That was, I think it was like, hi, welcome to 60 Cycle Hum. My name is Ryan. It's like 7 seconds tops. At one point, he posted a supercut from one video that was probably 10 minutes of him trying to hit that.
Yeah.
And this was after he'd already been, doing the channel for like 6-7 years. And it's just like, if you don't have that clean start, then you're going to you could have a rough start, and you might as well start over, because it's going to be in your head for everything else that you do for the next however many minutes. But I've even found I've made like 2 or 3 videos. I always say like I try to make one video a year, and it's usually the Premier Guitar mystery stocking unboxing.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's weird. If you can nail that first 20-30 seconds, then you feel really comfortable like going in. And if you're 4 minutes in and then you're like, oh, I forgot what I was going to say, and then you just let the camera roll and you let everything keep rolling and you figure out what you're going to do, and then you just restart.
Yeah.
And then you just think, well, I can edit that out. But if it's in that first 10, 15, 20 seconds, it's like you're just like, I just need to restart, because nothing else is going to feel good.
Nope. I have done that before. I've been putting out a lot of like lesson content. And dude, I'm telling you, man, like I usually will do it all. When I say one take, that one take is after I've screwed up the intro about 70 times.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I 100% know where you're coming from with that, dude, because that's what sets the pace for the video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thankfully, knock on wood, haven't fallen on my face too much during the podcast, besides, maybe messing up a name or two. But, I've always had a good way of just keeping a conversation going with another person. But
for sure,
it's a lot easier with another person because now I get direct feedback. You know what I mean? Unlike a camera, just the blank, lens just staring back at me, just constantly judging that blank.
Yeah. I watch, different things. I used to watch. I've mostly stopped. I watched this a show where this guy brings on guests and he interviews them, and usually the interviews it's him critiquing their financial choices, basically,
Okay.
and they're always bad. Like it's people who are, in massive amounts of debt and whatever. But a lot of times these people go on there and they're just like nervous, smiling the whole time,
Yeah.
and they're laughing at things that aren't really funny. Like it's a serious topic, but he'll be like, "You're $40,000 in debt because you keep." Because you took out a student loan and then like you never applied to actually use it. You just went back to sitting on your couch or
Yeah.
whatever. And then they'll
Right.
just start laughing and it's, it seems really kind of odd. Like these people are laughing because it's a nervous thing.
Yeah.
And I always say when people be like, oh, these people don't take the show seriously. They're lucky to be guests and whatever in the online communities. And I always just say like red light syndrome's real.
Yeah.
Like it's a very real thing. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
hit record, when Ryan, because we did music together for a really long time, he knows what I at least used to be capable of as a musician, as a bass player. Like
Sure.
nothing crazy, but if there is this is how the song goes, then I will play something appropriate to that song.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be flashy, but it will work.
Right.
But if you just say like, hey, here's a pattern I want you to hear in your head. It's G, D, E minor, C. Here's a bass. We're going to turn it on. Just play through that pattern. And there's nothing else going on. I'm going to stare in the camera and all of a sudden, like, I cannot play 4 on the floor because the camera's on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. 100%.
But if there's a drummer and a guitar player to play along with, then everything's great,
Yeah. Yeah. The only time I think I would disagree with that is, and once again, a more of a personal thing to me, is when I had that idea that I guess that sort of imposter syndrome when you first start doing stuff and people start paying attention to you, and then you get asked to do things for other people, and then you're face to face or maybe screen to screen with somebody else that you've been maybe watching for a long time, and you're trying not to be a weirdo. You know what I mean? And that was the one time I did a Patreon episode with 2 guys that I was really into, and you can tell the first like 10 minutes of it. I'm like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands right now. You know what I mean? Like it was so bad.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I think you have to have those experiences to kind of you messed up. How are you going to improve this the next time? You know what I mean? So, but it's an interesting thing, the online thing, man, because one of the things I've always struggled with, and I just recently have just been like, I don't even care anymore, is I don't want to be known as the podcast guy, or I don't want to be known as the YouTube guy, or I don't want, you know what I mean? Like it's this weird thing. That's one of the reasons I used to be on TikTok, and I was doing pretty well on TikTok, but it just wasn't, I don't know, like the short form content, it just felt kind of like superficial to me.
Yeah.
It's like people are just doom scrolling, and I'm only providing like a 60-second little funny clip, which
Right.
is good. But at the same time, it's like every time I would post something, I'm like, hey, a new guest this week, you should check out, like just trying to plug the podcast a little bit, not like trying to force it down anybody's throat or anything, but those posts would just plummet,
Right.
in views because nobody cared. It wasn't the standard format for that platform.
One of the big conversations I see lately with different things, and everyone's experience is different, but there's a lot of talk recently with the Instagram algorithm and what it's doing. TikTok's algorithm, I've always been told it changes like every 2 weeks.
Right.
Like it's always changing. What TikTok thinks is hot is always changing. I know people who think they got shadow banned on TikTok because they don't understand that. They don't understand that the thing that got them 50,000 views last week just isn't on the radar anymore.
For sure.
So you can't do it again. But the flip side of that is I don't really understand I guess for Ryan and I, we've never seen social media in those spaces as being anything other than community building.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
it's tough when I see, like, it's hard for me to understand when I see brands or I see other creators who are like, "Oh, I made this video and I thought it was for, an Instagram reel, and Instagram's only sending it's not sending because the whole thing with Instagram now is they don't send stuff to your followers, they send stuff just out to the algorithm, and the
Hmm.
algorithm sends it wherever it goes."
Yeah.
And in turn, you end up, I think, with people who might have, say, they're a pedal company. They've got 10,000 followers, but 9,000 of their 10,000 followers aren't gear junkies.
Right.
So they're watching cat videos 90% of the time. And if you're trying to reach those people with your new content, thinking, I've got 10,000 followers, this should go to 10,000 people, it's not. It's
Yeah.
only going to the 1,000 gear junkies that follow you, and everyone else, maybe they used to be a gear junkie, but now they just watch cat videos. So they're never
Yeah.
going to see it.
Yeah. Well, and the way that I've kind of reprogrammed my brain, I guess, to think about this is like I said in the beginning, someone is going to watch you.
Yeah.
You're going to find the people that are going to watch you. It's not going to be the instant gratification like most
Mm-hmm.
people are looking for online, though. It's going to come through that honest, authentic, consistent content.
Yeah.
Something that you're passionate about, something that you enjoy doing, something because when you do that, it goes through, whatever it is, whether it's the microphone, whether it's the camera, like you can hear and you can see it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what people are drawn to.
It's definitely tough when you feel like your livelihood depends on it, which is the case in a lot of, like, say, builders.
Sure.
Um, but again, you said the same thing earlier. It's also about consistency.
Yeah.
And some of the people I've seen complain about the algorithm. It's like, well, I post on Instagram every Monday. Well, what do you do Tuesday through Sunday?
Right.
Well, I'm doing other stuff because there's so much social media. It's like, well, that's good that you have I post a picture every Monday or a reel every Monday or whatever, but for better or worse, honestly, it's for worse.
Yeah.
Like, it's for worse from a societal standpoint, but the algorithm wants to be fed every day.
Yeah.
And if you don't feed it every day, the algorithm is the neighborhood cat, and it's going to go find a different house where it will get fed every day.
Yeah.
Why am I talking about cats so much?
Hey, it's all good, man. It's all good. It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
That's why it's a good analogy. Well, I've had a previous guest, Xander Raymond Charles. He used to go by Stay Metal Ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the pieces of advice he gave me when I first interviewed him. He's like, dude, just act like you're a computer virus and just post everywhere all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
good, bad, and different. Heck, man, I've gotten to the point where if I play something wrong and something that I would normally delete, I'm just like, you know what, whatever. Hey,
Yeah.
guess what I messed up on today? Here you go.
Yeah.
You know,
The computer virus thing is great. I have found that I really enjoy Threads right now,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Threads platform.
hmm
On top of that, and this is like one of those open secrets. We've 60 Cycle Hum is big enough that we were one of the creators that got to do that we're in the Threads kind of like beta testing program. It's not even really beta testing, but they're basically doing what they do with Instagram, trying to figure out how payments are going to work on Threads, right?
sure,
So a
sure,
lot of content creators are getting paid to post on Threads as long as they hit a certain view threshold. So they're I mean, I honestly spent part of my workday today trying to figure out, like, oh, what's the dumbest thing I can post on Threads today?
right,
And it's not like intentionally dumb, because I do try to post things that are relevant to what we're doing. Ryan posted a Jag video, the Fender Jag versus Squire Jag video yesterday. So at the end of the day yesterday, I just wrote a thing that was like, I don't understand, like, how people have this, feel like big purists about a guitar that Fender didn't even make in the United States for 24 years.
right,
Um, And that was the thing where I'm like, I know people are pissed about Jaguars, but that's also like a real conversation. It's part of the community. Like
Hmm.
it's a community question. So I'm appreciative that that Meta wants to send not a ton of money, but that they'll pay you to post basically
Yeah.
as long as you get the hits, enough views. But also like I really enjoy the platform.
Yeah.
When Threads started, we started up our Threads account, and we had like 2,000 followers in like 4 days because it transferred everybody over from Instagram to
Yep.
Threads. We've been on Twitter for, I don't know, 8 years.
Hmm.
I don't think we have 1,000 followers on Twitter
I believe it.
because
Yeah.
I've always felt like the guitar space over there is dead.
Yeah.
And I feels like it's only gotten worse. I just go
Yeah.
on there to try to troll Republicans now.
Hey, that's fair.
Like,
It's easy to do, I'm
yeah.
sure. Well, when I started this, I made a, what am I trying to say? A profile on every social media platform I can
Yeah.
think of. You know what I mean? And that is the one that is just never done anything. I think
Hmm.
I've got like 15 followers,
Yeah.
maybe. And it's been almost 2 years of consistently, doing stuff.
Right.
And I just got to the point like maybe a month or two ago. I was like, yeah, I think I'm good because it's just not giving me anything that I really care about. I'm getting like super glossy, like the old Gibson ads and stuff like that, and that's really about it. It's like it's nothing I really care about on here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and then not to mention all the other, like you said, all that other bullshit that they feed you
Yeah.
just to piss you off.
I told Ryan I'm like kind of semi-actively trying to get banned.
Yeah, I can.
Like so
Well,
like and that's where he got the idea. One of the last things, it's actually Ryan almost never uses Twitter.
hmm
But he logged on a week ago when we got our first when the first bonus period ended for Threads, and we got the invoice in the mail saying like, here's where do you want us to send us your PayPal, or make sure it's up to date on your Meta business account
hmm
so we can deposit this. Ryan took a picture of it and then posted it on Twitter and said, this is the reason we're on Threads and not on Twitter."
Yeah. Well, I
No.
mean, plain and simple. I
Yeah,
mean,
but we were on Threads already. Like we were already doing stupid shit over there because it's been a really fun space since day one, pretty much for us.
yeah. So I was a little, I think I was a little confused as to what it was when I first saw the notification for it.
Yeah, it's weird.
But then once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is, I, I've, I could see where I would actually enjoy this. And like you said too, the ease of use of transferring everybody over, like it was just a seamless transition.
Yeah,
And all the friends that I've already made in the music space were already there too. So
for
it was
sure.
a
Yeah,
seamless transition. Unlike Twitter, man, where it's just, I don't know. It's just been, I don't think I ever really used it to begin with, though. So maybe that's part of why I'm just not really into it.
we had so there's all these different YouTube tools like vidIQ. Well, vidIQ is a little different, like TubeBuddy and all these different things where you can integrate like 60 Cycle Hum posted a new video and it will automatically go out to a bunch of different social
Oh,
medias.
okay. Yeah.
So we used to have that set up for like our Facebook page and for Twitter and for all these different places. So we were trying to use it that way. Um, and then we would like interject things here and there, but yeah, it's never been a functional platform. I know people who love it, who have always
Yeah.
like been like, oh yeah, I found my people on there and whatever, and that's good, but I've never felt like anyone that I knew in the music space was like, yeah, I have a really good community. You should come in and like be part of my community on Twitter.
I don't think I've ever heard that sentence and Twitter in the same. And I'm just being honest. Like I'm not trying to say anything bad about anybody. It's just I especially here in the past 3 or 4 years haven't heard anything good about it. You know what I
No,
mean?
the last 3 or 4 years have definitely been different,
So
to say the least.
it's just like, well, I'm not even going to waste my time over there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, especially too, man. I don't really try to get wrapped up into that, just because it's just not worth my time
For sure.
to even worry about it. You know what I mean? I'd rather watch, music, gear related stuff online, and that's my escape away from the world for a little bit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is for most people. You know what I mean? Most people work in the 9 to 5. A new pedal's released, they go to their favorite creator or their favorite podcast, and they get to get away from it for
Yeah.
anywhere from 8 minutes to an hour.
Or
You
it's a big brand launch and they put up their YouTube subscription and there's 43 videos. It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Well, and see the thing, I've never understood well, I guess I kind of understand the complaint about that, but when you see all of these quote unquote influencers that get the new pedal or the new whatever, you're usually not subscribed to every single one of these people. Like you already
Yeah.
have the people you watch. You know what I mean? So what difference does it make if, let's say, Jay Leonard J is your guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then you see 15 other YouTubers that have the same video up. Like, are you really going to watch those other 15 videos? No,
Right.
you're going to go with the one that you trust, the one that you enjoy watching.
There's the one, the 1% or whatever, like the small number of people who subscribe to enough channels that it like messes up their page for a day, like
For
one
sure.
day.
For sure.
And then the next day you're going to see all the videos, the other videos again. Or it messes up their explore page for one day, 2 days.
Sure.
But yeah, overall it's like it's exactly that is, the brands assume that you don't follow both, or like you don't follow Jay Leonard J and 60 Cycle Hum and Ola England.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably only going to follow one of those guys. And so they have to send the pedal to all three.
Yeah.
Because they want to cover, the pedal's not just for one style of music or one type of musician, so they have to do the shotgun blast.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's I honestly think that's the best way to market these days. I mean it's you can't really go about it a better way in my opinion, especially now. Even back in the day though. I mean, you got guys that would. Did anybody ever complain about magazine ads? You know what I mean? But
some of those old. I got a copy of. Man, I don't remember what guitar magazine it was. It was a few years ago. It might have been. Well, it doesn't matter because they all do this.
Sure.
Any of the ones that are like Guitar World's a little broader. They're a little more pop culture, but this guitar player or whatever is a little more of a like dedicated to guys like us. And those things are like 40% ads. Like every other page is an ad. And when you talk to people in the industry, sometimes the articles are ads too.
Yeah, fact.
Right.
Right.
I have literally talked to companies who are like, the magazine will publish like a quarter page. Hey, this brand just launched this super cool overdrive distortion combo pedal. Here's 2 tiny paragraphs about it. And then the thing gets published, and then a week later, hey, pedal company, did you see that? I'm holding my hand up to my phone, even though this is a podcast. Hey, pedal company, did you see that little article we wrote about you? For only a large sum of money, we'll write a bigger article about you. Like, just let us know. I don't know which brands do that, but I definitely know like that is a real thing that the magazine industry or digital, whether it's physical magazine, digital magazine, like that is a real thing.
100%.
They write the small article on you so you get a taste. It's a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug of advertising. You sold 5 pedals off of our little 3-paragraph blurb. Imagine how many pedals you'd sell with a 2-page.
Exponential growth at that point. You know what I mean? Absolutely exponential growth. Oh, well. No, but I thought it was. And speaking of the phone thing, I will be uploading this to YouTube too, so everybody will
Nice
be able to see everything. So that you're doing
phone.
all of the weird hand motions that we get. You know what I mean? Even with my crappy webcam that I got, it's gonna digitize if I move too fast. You know what I mean? But it's all good. That's the process, right? Because this is what we
Yeah,
got to do. We got to show the
yeah.
progression, right? And a year from now, when it's all crisp and clear and awesome, everybody's gonna be like, "Dang, man, you really stepped it up."
I never even bought a dedicated camera for live streaming. I use my wife's camera with a capture card. Like
Oh, okay.
she has like a mirrorless Sony,
Hmm.
and I just run the line out to a capture card, and
Yeah.
so it's the camera's sitting there thinking like, when are you going to take the picture, dumbass?
Right. Well, and I think like however you get it done is how you get it done. You know what I
Well,
mean?
100%.
It doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone's not going to watch a video of mine or anybody's that because the video quality is too low, it is what it is, man.
Yeah,
It's not that
yeah.
big of a deal,
There
you know.
there's some aspects. It's been assumed. I don't know how much of this is an assumption versus how much has been actually demonstrated that YouTube wants to promote 4K content.
Hmm.
So that is like kind of built into their algorithm. But yeah, 100%. Like when I watch anything on YouTube, um, the quality of the video is maybe the third or fourth thing on my list.
Yeah.
Um, I know I get crap for it all the time. I watch Netflix on my phone.
Okay. Yeah. I've done it.
Like I'll sit there on the couch,
Hmm.
especially with two kids. Like I want to watch, I want to watch I watched all the Alien movies and all the Predator movies, and I'm with my oldest is 15. She doesn't care, but my youngest is like 9 and would not understand anything that's going on. All she would just see is like people exploding.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm watching it all on my phone, and every couple minutes I'm shoulder checking to make sure she's not behind me.
Dude, it's so funny, man. I am in the process right now. I am about halfway through Aliens.
Hmm.
So, Sigourney Weaver was my childhood hero growing up, man. I
Oh, okay,
loved those. I
nice.
loved those movies, man. And still to this day, I haven't seen Romulus yet. I need to go to the theaters and go get it, man.
Yeah, yeah. I got to figure out how I want. I didn't how I want to handle that. If I just want to wait till it'll hits Hulu or whatever in 6 months, or if I
Yeah,
want to chase it down.
I think I'm in the same boat right now. I think I'm probably just going to wait. As much as I like going to the movie theater, which I've never enjoyed the movie theater. Yeah, I'd much rather, like you said, either sit in the comfort of my home on the couch or through the phone, or if the kids are asleep, big screen TV and call it
Yeah.
good.
I
You know,
like the movie theater when it's when there's like one other person in the theater and they're on the other side of the theater from you.
for sure,
That's
for
about it.
sure. Yeah.
I've been to like I went to midnight openings for uh whatever the Matrix Reloaded,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and I went to a midnight opening or midnight show, yeah, midnight opening for I think it was the Two Towers.
Hmm.
And those were both like I went with friends, so that part of it was cool, but like being in a packed theater gets a little unpredictable because there's, you always have the one group of 5 or 6 people that just want to make a bunch of noise and laugh too hard, and and you're just trying to watch the damn movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I live in a military town too, so that's just kind
Mm,
of exacerbated by younger soldiers that are just coming in and
right,
got to show
right.
their ass every now and then, which is fun. But no, man. I think that's a good little episode right here. Okay, so before we wrap this up, any plans for the rest of the year? I know we're about 5 months left in it for you guys.
Um, no, I think actually we're kind of already in NAM plan mode.
Okay, I was about to say. I
Which
thought
I
so.
mean, we're not even really planning NAM. We're kind of doing the same thing we did last year, which is let Philip handle everything.
Okay, there you go.
And we'll just come because we've done it both ways where we were trying to book hotels or trying to do a house, and it's just if you have somebody who is going who loves spreadsheets, like just let them handle it all,
Absolutely.
and you just say like we could probably do it cheaper on our own, maybe, but the cost of saying just give me a number at the end and show me which bet is mine there is a lot of value in that.
Absolutely.
So we're looking forward to that. Probably November. I mean, the gears are always turning year round, but probably November, December, uh, we'll probably start thinking about like what kind of content, if any, we want to try to make. NAM is again they're gonna make a big push to try to do like content creator friendly things,
Sure.
but Ryan's done like the big blitz approach, make 20, 30 videos at NAM. And at this point, yeah, the way Ryan always puts it is like, that's young man stuff.
I believe it.
It's a young man's game.
Yeah.
But so it's nice to just go and hang out. As far as other things go, I don't know that we have anything. I know we have a few things coming down the pipe because Ryan's always coming up with, an idea to film or working with brands, but because a lot of it's working with brands, you can't really say too much. And we'll probably make a push September, October, November, and then end of November to January, probably actually end of November through end of January, probably go. We might hit a slow period again. It's tough because that's a period where you want to be blitzing and trying to take advantage of everybody buying stuff off of Amazon, but it's also like a good time where can we just slow down and do some family stuff and
right.
And maybe I'll actually get Ryan to live stream again. I don't think he's done a live stream that was for him since like February.
Yeah.
But usually around the holidays we end up doing it like we don't want to get together the week of Christmas. We'll just live stream an episode
for sure.
So nothing big planned. No shows or anything like Fretboard Summit or like we kind of just didn't do any of that stuff this year.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like you said though before, it's kind of something you guys have always done, and I do like the young man game analogy. I totally get that, man. I can't imagine. I've never actually been to one, so I can't say for my personal experience, but I can see from the videos how absolutely chaotic they can be.
Yeah.
So
and it seems like they're ramping back up. They've done things to make it feel bigger than it is. Like last year's 2024's, I think was like 70,000 people, which is still only like half of their peak. I think 2020 was like a peak year and it was like 135,000. So they've done things like put up curtains to kind of just cordon off areas to make everything still feel pretty tight.
Sure.
But it's pretty crazy. Not as crazy as it feels right to me right now.
Okay.
Like 2022 was weird.
Well,
the first year back, it was like kind of weird, and it was in the summer. But last year's felt good, or 2024. So I always call it last year, but it was this year.
Well, I guess in the cycle that you guys run, it technically is last year's still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the terminology is fine. It doesn't.
There's
really
no
matter.
This year. There's only last year and next year.
Exactly. I was about to say there's only the previous and the following. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate you taking the time, dude. Good talk, man. And for all of you guys listening and for you guys watching, I'll have links down below where you can check out everything 60 Cycle. Go ahead and head down there and check out everything that Ryan and Steve are doing. It's always fun. I always enjoy watching your guys' content, man. It always kind of like brings a smile to my face just how quirky and funny you guys are. So
well, thanks.
Absolutely, dude. But for everybody, we will check you guys next week on Man the Helm podcast.